The bad news is that the MLB lockout still is going on. The good news, however, is that Locked On Red Sox is continuing to bring you content each and every week. What's going on, everyone? I am Lauren Campbell. I have been covering Boston sports for NESN for 4 years. I've been in this media scene now here in Boston for 7 years total. I will be joined shortly by my co-host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider Jake Iggy, very shortly. We are so excited to bring you today's episode. We were privileged to be joined by 2021 Red Sox draft pick Niko Kavadas. He talks his journey through baseball. He talks getting drafted by the Red Sox and so much more that you will not want to miss. Also, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's get into Monday's episode.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are privileged to be joined today by Notre Dame alum and Red Sox 2021 draft pick, Niko Kavadas. So how are we doing today, Niko?
I'm doing well, Jake. Thanks for having me. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Where are you calling in from?
I'm here in South Bend, Indiana. This is my hometown. I grew up 10, 12 minutes from Notre Dame.
Oh, good stuff. And it's like 20 degrees over here. We just got like a ginormous snowstorm, so definitely still trying to get over that a little bit. Can't wait for the warm weather to come so we can start getting baseball rolling.
Yeah, we're supposed to get 15 to 18 inches in the next 36 hours, so we'll see how we handle that.
That's awesome. How's your off season been going so far?
It's been a lot of fun. I've played a lot of golf. Been in the gym a little bit. Been over at the cages at Notre Dame quite a bit, and it's nice being this close to my former university because I have all these teammates and friends and relationships that I've built there, and I also have a bunch of friends at home, from high school and whatnot. So, being able to spend time with both those friend groups has been really good.
I used to play baseball growing up, and I just picked up golf again, and it's so interesting how close both of those sports are to each other. Sort of like the failure of baseball that you get the same thing with golf, and just trying to be able to get have that mental toughness to be able to get through those failures.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and those failures are pretty frequent for a guy like me who hits super long and super loose. So I've got plenty of experience dealing with the adversity there.
So your long game's good, but how's your putting?
I do not putt well. I got the putter in the family room, actually, and every night I sit there and hit 15, 20 balls and try and get a feel for it, and there's just no touch.
Awesome. So you said that you've been golfing a lot and also working out as well, but I was curious, like what's one of your favorite moments outside of doing baseball stuff and like golfing throughout this off season?
Yeah, so my family back home has Bears season tickets, so I headed up to Chicago, I think, for the Baltimore game. That was pretty cool. Awesome. And additionally, I was privileged to go to the first 2 rounds of the Ryder Cup in Whistling Straits in Wisconsin, so that was an absolute blast.
What's your thoughts on the most recent hires for the Bears?
I'm excited. I think Eberflus can be the guy. I'm excited that he thinks Justin Fields is the guy. That's something you want to hear.
I don't know if you most recently saw Ryan Poles said this morning. He's like we're not giving the NFC North back. He's like, we're gonna take it and not give it back.
Yeah, I did see that. That's pretty exciting. It gives me goosebumps. It's been too long since that's been the case.
Exactly. I felt bad for Bears fans with how bad they've had it, but obviously with Justin Fields under center, I think it's going to be a lot better. But we're here to talk some baseball. So, especially like growing up, like what was one of your favorite teams growing up?
I actually grew up a really big Cubs fan. Being a Midwest guy, they were always so close. My dad went to IU. So when I was in high school and a little before, I would go down to Bloomington and watch some IU games. And I got to see 2 of my favorite players, Sam Travis and Kyle Schwarber, play. And it's interesting where both of them ended up.
Yeah, exactly. And funny enough, researching for this interview, I heard you say that you did that, and also that you looked up to Adrian Gonzalez and his swing. And when I heard that, I was like, funny enough, all those guys have played in Boston. What do you know?
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny how things like that happen.
Exactly. Everything happens for a reason at the end of the day. But how tough was that growing up with that 108-year drought?
Oh man, I remember Kosuke Fukudome on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and elementary school me is like, he's the one that's going to change it. It's coming to an end here, and yeah, it was really cool to see it happen in 16.
And how, like, especially during, I don't know about you, but like, even as a Red Sox fan, like that Cubs World Series Game 7 against the Indians, that's the greatest baseball game that I've ever watched up to this point. Just because as a fan, like of the sport, you're just on the edge of your seat. But I remember, I forget exactly what it was for the Indians, but they were also gonna break a drought if they won too. So either way, like a team would have made history.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember I was upstairs and my entire family is just screaming at the TV as that game had the ebbs and flows that it did. And it was really cool to see the Cubs pulled out.
That's awesome. And so you mentioned that you looked up to Kyle Schwarber a little bit. What with how he plays the game and his swing a little bit, do you try to put into your approach?
He's a bigger, huskier, left-handed bat. He's from the Midwest, and he's got that natural loft that I feel like I've tried to mirror as my playing career is possessed. There's no pitch that beats him, and he can hit the ball out from foul pole to foul pole, and I think that that's a really unique characteristic. So that's something that I've always tried to emulate him.
He's also really good at, especially his eye, and something that we saw, especially with Bobby Dalbec in the second half, when Schwarber came over to the Sox. Like Bobby Dalbec went in there in the cages with him, and we saw him become so much more patient. But it's really interesting watching Schwarber. It's especially if like a ball gets called a strike, and he just looks back at the ump. He's like, I know that's a ball.
Yeah, he knows. He knows. He's got a really, really trained eye, and I think that's part of what makes him such a great hitter.
I also think that you're a much better first baseman than him, probably.
I hope so. I'm not so sure.
I don't know if you saw it at all, but he made like a routine ground ball, and he like waved to the crowd and everything like that, and everybody was like memeing him afterwards. They're like, Kyle, that's like a routine one. Come on, settle down, bud.
It's good stuff. I love that.
And so growing up like close to Notre Dame, I read that it was your dream to go to that school, and it's pretty incredible, sort of your story, going to that school, walking on as a freshman. Talk a little bit about that, and especially being able to make the team. How much of like a childhood dream was that for you?
Yeah, Notre Dame, as I said earlier, was 10, 12 minutes away, so it was always in my backyard. It's been a dream of mine to pursue not only, playing in the ACC, but also to pursue such a prestigious education. So to have that blend made it a really, really special place. So when I got the opportunity to, be a preferred walk-on there, I knew I had to grab it by the horns and run. And I really, really struggled my first fall there. I think I had like one or two hits over the entire fall, and I was starting to question, your preferred walk on, you've got one or two hits, how are you going to turn this around? And I think that first 4 or 5 week break that I got for, winter break was when I kind of collected myself and, asked what needs to happen before you step back on the field in January, to put yourself in the best position. And I was able to get in the cages and get some work done. And then I felt like an immediate turnaround, I do belong here. I wasn't questioning myself any longer, and I really haven't looked back since.
We hope you are enjoying our conversation with 2021 Red Sox draft pick Niko Kavadas. We are so excited to bring you part 2 of our conversation with him in our second segment. As always, thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. We will get you right back to Niko's conversation, but first I do want to tell you about Built Bar. You probably know me well enough by now to know that I absolutely love Built Bar. And this time of the year, it's February. We're really close to spring. It's like so close, but so far away. Usually, this is around the time where I've pretty much given up on my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm getting married in 6 months. I need to continue to eat right, and Built Bar is helping me do that. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I truly enjoy eating them. I just finished one before I hopped on here to record this episode. And have you tried the Built Bar Puffs? If you haven't, you're seriously missing out because it's one of the best tasting Built Bars. I love the cookies and cream, but the puffs, absolutely amazing. It's the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They're a fan favorite with some incredible flavors. There's cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're so good, and they're going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, the puffs included. 100% real chocolate makes it taste even better. They're low calorie, they're high protein, they are better than a candy bar, and a typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Go to built.com, scroll down to the macros chart, and you'll be blown away. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And we have an offer for you. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. That's LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. This episode also is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all of the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse just so happens to carry? You have computers and you have phones with access to rockauto.com right at home and right in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. And Rock Auto's prices are reliably low for every customer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all of the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
That's amazing, man. And you got named to the All-American 2 separate times. I was looking; it was perfect game. Baseball America. I'm like, wow, you couldn't have gotten picked for two better applications. But especially looking back on your journey, like through your time at Notre Dame, like what's one of the biggest things that you've learned, and how do you feel that you've grown in the 4 years there?
Yeah, I feel like I've become very disciplined because of what Notre Dame stands for. It's excellence in the classroom, it's excellence in the community, and it's excellence on the field. So there's not really a facet of life that can falter when you're there, and everyone holds you to the highest standard. No matter where you are. So I've learned to discipline myself, and I've learned what it takes to be great. And how to maximize your own potential given the time that you have. I didn't have time to play a ton of video games or, enjoy a normal college career like a lot of people do. But, being able to take that time and use it in productive ways, I think has made me a better baseball player.
Makes sense. And sort of before we started this, we were talking about how right when you got drafted, everybody on Red Sox Twitter was like, "Holy crap, this kid hits absolute bombs!" And there's probably a lot of balls that you hit at Notre Dame that still haven't hit the ground. But sort of at what point did you realize that you're such a lethal home run hitter throughout your baseball career?
I had a lot of power when I was younger. I matured a little bit faster than a lot of the kids, so I had a lot of power. And then I started to struggle for a while there at the beginning of my high school career. I went through a little power drought, and I went to a hitting coach, Mike Marks, up in Sturgis, who really helped turn me around. But he said you need to learn to hit before you can learn to hit for power, and kind of deconstructed everything and got me back into repeatable movements that help put the barrel on the baseball. And from then, it's just gradually adding that strength and adding the bat speed, and the ball starts to carry. And I think that's really how I've evolved as a hitter.
And especially like I also read as well that you were able to develop a lot during your sophomore year in the Cape Cod League. Talk a little bit about that because from your past comments, you said that was such an impactful time for you, especially in your baseball career.
Yeah, it really was. And like you said earlier, I think that was a time when like power really became part of my game, like a really big part of my game. I had, 0 home runs in the first half of my freshman year and hit 5 in the back half, ran into a couple in a row, but didn't really make any swing adjustments that caused that. And then, developed a leg kick going into my sophomore campaign and saw an uptick in power a little bit, but also the strikeout numbers inflated. So the Cape, I needed to see that, against everyone's Friday night guy, against everyone's weekend rotation, I'm able to make this leg kick work. So to go out there and to hit 10, 11 home runs in 55, 60 games, it kind of solidified to me that, yeah, the swing's where it needs to be. Now we need to dial it in. We don't need to start adding any large components. And I think that was a really big turning point for me.
Makes sense. And especially like growing up and even throughout your entire baseball career, has there ever been any times where you've hit like 3, 4 home runs in a game where you're just like looking back like, holy crap, I can't believe I did that?
Yeah, we had I was actually in Cape Cod and we played a game on the road at Wareham, and my first at bat, I think I got a 1-0 changeup, and it was just kind of center, and I rolled it over to the first baseman, and I came back to the dugout, and I was like, if he throws that again, I'm going to deposit it. And lo and behold, 1-0, he comes back with it, and I got the first one, and the second one, kind of a fastball got in on me, and I just was lucky enough to get the head out to it and got the second one. And then I was like praying for another at bat in the ninth because I had never, or I think it was the eighth, and I had never hit 3 home runs in a game. And I got a middle in fastball and was able to put it over the right field bleachers. And that was the first time I've ever, had a 3 home run game.
Makes sense, and that must have been incredible. And I bet there's a lot of times as well where when you hit the ball and you don't even feel it, just hit, it just feels so smooth. And has there ever been any time, I don't know if any of the leagues that you've played for, that they actually track the distance of the ball, but have you ever gotten close to like 500 feet?
Yeah. I'm not sure
That's awesome.
the TrackMan was turned on for the Mississippi State home run, but I've had people come to me and say, I have friends in the analytics department at Mississippi State, and they had it at, 502 or 504. I'm not sure how truthful any of that is, but I think that's up there. And I think that my first home run of the year last year and my first at bat at Wake Forest was up there too.
And talking about home runs, especially like coming on to the Notre Dame as a preferred walk-on, I mean, you broke the single season record at Notre Dame with 22 home runs, and also your 46 career home runs is tied second all time. So it's especially like thinking back to yourself as a walk-on, dreaming of playing for the Notre Dame baseball team, like looking back at your 4-year career at the university. Like you have to be thinking in your mind, I can't believe that, I was able to be as good as I was during my time there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. But I almost expected this of myself 15 years ago. This has always been the goal, and this has been the standard, to give myself an opportunity to play professional baseball. And I think to be standing here now is really, really cool, and it's exciting, but it's not anything that I never thought I could do.
That's a great mindset, man. And something that I heard at a past interview from yours is that you always try and outwork everybody else. And, that obviously shows with sort of how you explained, you struggled in your freshman fall season and you were able to eventually make the team and do what you were able to do at Notre Dame. But how have you really been able to do that now as a professional?
Yeah. I had an old coach when I was growing up named Dave Metcalf, and he always said, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse because everyone around you is getting better. And that's something that's always kind of stuck with me. And so you get into an organization like the Red Sox that drafts and develops such high level players. You can learn so much from those guys. They're your teammates and they're there to help you. So being able to talk hitting with guys like Nathan Hickey and Tyler Miller and Blaze Jordan and Nick Decker has been super helpful for me in becoming, the hitter that I am today.
We hope you are still enjoying our conversation with Red Sox draft pick Niko Kavadas. We do have one more segment to get to you right here on Locked On Red Sox. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Before we get into our third segment, I need to tell you about BetOnline. There might be less football being played, but BetOnline.net has way more stuff to bet on this playoff season. From score totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And it's not just football. BetOnline.net's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your #1 wagering destination. BetOnline also is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. It's also Super Week, and Super Week is brought to you by Get Upside, and there's no better place to get coverage of the big game than the Locked On NFL podcast. Locked On Bengals and Locked On Rams are in LA all week covering the big game.
Now, you mentioned Blaze Jordan. I mean, he's another guy who hits absolute nukes. So what was your experience, not only playing with him, but playing with some of the other newly drafted guys, or drafted guys as well from last year, and not only in the Gulf Coast League, but for the Salem Red Sox?
Yeah, Blaze has got a ton of bat speed. The one thing that surprised me about Blaze is, I've seen Blaze since he won that home run derby at 12 or whatever it was. And, my little brother was in his graduating class in high school and always was showing me videos of Blaze Jordan. So I knew him as this big, strong power hitter. And when I saw him run, I kind of caught me by surprise. He can scoot a little bit. That's the one thing that caught me off guard.
That's hilarious. And especially when you got drafted by the Red Sox, what was your immediate reaction? I read before that that you had gotten drafted the previous year, but you wanted to try and go back to Notre Dame and get your stock back up. So what was that immediate reaction, especially with the Red Sox being such a storied franchise, like your favorite team, the Cubs? What was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, to be selected by anyone would have been really cool, but to be selected by Boston is really, really special. I mean, like you said, it's such a storied franchise. And, when their names popped up on my phone, one thing was in my mind, and that was, the green monster, and I could see it. I could just visualize myself lofting balls over it. And I think that's really, really cool. And I'm excited to be a part of this organization.
And now, especially when you played in the Gulf Coast League, I mean, JetBlue Park is a little bit of a smaller green monster, but how was your experience, playing in a makeshift sort of Fenway Park down in Florida?
Yeah, it was good. In my last game there at JetBlue, I hit a ball pretty well backside, and I'm hitting first base. Is it going to go out? Is it not going to go out? And it hits the top of the wall and ricochets to the left fielder, and I make my turn, and the second baseman's standing there with the ball, and I got 15 feet left, and I'm like, this is not good. The wall give and the wall take it away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially with how close that wall is, at least at Fenway, it's tough to be able to get an easy double off those, especially standing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so I mean, something that I heard in a past interview as well is that if a team were to draft you, one of the biggest things that you would bring to an organization is trying to make everybody around you a better player. And how have you tried to do that during your first season in professional baseball?
Yeah, last year I met a lot of guys who are extremely talented and who are 18, 19 years old and are just gifted with such unbelievable tools. So being 23 years old and have played 4 years of Division I college baseball, I feel like there's a lot of experience there and a lot of things that I can help with, from the mental aspect of the game, because so much of the game is played between the ears that, I feel like after my college career, I've kind of been in all of these high pressure situations, and I've learned how to deal with those sorts of situations. So I think that's where I found myself making the biggest impact, was talking to some of the younger guys who are extremely talented, but just don't necessarily have the experience that I have.
Right. I think that's so huge, especially getting into professional baseball. How you have all that pressure of wanting to live up to those expectations that you were drafted on. But talking about the mental side of the game, I want to first start off by saying your senior year stats at Notre Dame hit .305 with 21 home runs and 62 RBIs. But like you mentioned, you played in some high leverage situations playing in the College World Series tournament. But during that senior year, you did have a stretch where you were 1 for 25. So during that sort of stretch, like how were you able to like build up that mental strength and be able to get over that? And how did that stretch be able to help you be a better player now?
Yeah, over that stretch, we were on the road. It was right at the end of the year. We went Virginia Tech right into the ACC tournament, and we didn't really have the time to come home and take a breath and kind of reset that stretch up until right before the tournament. So I was 1 for 25 heading into the NCAA tournament, and I got with my hitting coaches at Notre Dame, and I was like, what can we do to figure this out? And they're like, the swing is there. This looks exactly the same as it did, 4 weeks ago when you couldn't get out. It's between the ears. You got to put the barrel on the ball one time and everything will come back. And, in my first at bat of the regional, I swung through 3 balls and I came back, and, that's bound to happen. You do what you can do about the situation. And I was lucky enough to flush one up in the next at bat, and there was no turning back after that.
I think that's a great experience for you to go through, especially in college, to get you ready for what potentially could happen in professional ball. But now you're ready for it, and that's the biggest reason why I wanted to say those stats before I said that other stat is to show people how remarkable of a year you can have. And even though like those numbers are incredible, and I mean, like I mentioned before, you were named to the All-American 2 separate times, but like nobody really looks and thinks about those tough stretches that you can go through. And I mean, you were also a team captain 2 separate times during your time at Notre Dame. And how are you looking to use those leadership skills now playing for the Red Sox?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I learned as being a captain at Notre Dame is how to hold people accountable. That's not something that I was extremely comfortable with or good at my freshman or sophomore year, but junior year when I was thrust into a leadership role, there are certain situations that coach can only say something so many times until everyone starts to tune you out, and that's when you need your leaders to step in. You need your leaders to hold people accountable. And I was lucky enough to have a guy like Jared Miller, who's also a big Sox fan, by the way, co-captain, second baseman last year, who also did a phenomenal job of it. He was able to hold people accountable, and we were able to hold one another accountable. And that's how you set the standard. And that's how you kind of revitalize a culture. That's Coach Jarrett came in after my sophomore year, and he kind of reset the standard, and he bought in completely, and we bought in completely. And I think that, like I said a couple of times here before, the program hasn't looked back since.
Makes sense. And especially during your time with the Red Sox, like I mentioned, with the Gulf Coast League, as well as with the Salem Red Sox, you were able to hit 256 with 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. And one stat that I thought was awesome is you have a really good eye. 15 walks. You had more walks than you did strikeouts. And I think that's so huge, especially going into professional baseball, is being able to be patient and not want to rush to try and get on base or hit the big home run. And so, what's some of the biggest lessons after your first season were you able to learn?
Yeah, I think that was a large adjustment for me between college baseball and pro ball. Is the stuff in A ball and in rookie ball were pretty similar, but the command wasn't quite as strong. So early on in the season, I would get myself out a lot, 1-0, ball off the plate, 1-1, ball off the plate, just trying to be ultra aggressive. And I think when the command's not as good, you almost have to center yourself and understand that, you can make the plate a little smaller because their misses are going to be larger. And I think that that's something that helped me throughout my first year.
Makes sense. And now, like looking at those lessons, like how have you been able to try and work on that sort of stuff during this off season?
I think a lot of that stuff is like approach in between at bats. So, as I set the machine up or as I stand in on a live at bat, I try to simulate what sort of command a guy has. And I try to simulate, what would my approach be in this situation if this were a game at bat.
Makes sense. And especially with crossing my fingers that spring training is coming up at the end of this month, or at least at the start of March, if this lockout ends anytime soon. But with spring training coming up, what are some goals in your mind, and how are you looking to improve going into your second professional season?
Yeah, I think one goal that you touched on a little bit earlier is the 1-to-1 walk to strikeout ratio. I think that if I can keep myself right around that 1-to-1 number, that I'll be in a really good spot. That means that I'm seeing the ball well and I'm not swinging through balls that I shouldn't be swinging through. That's one of my big goals. And additionally, I want to develop as a defender. I think that, a lot of people will know me for the bat and for the long ball, but, baseball is a game where it takes multiple components of your game to make the big leagues. And that's my ultimate goal. So I need to develop as a defender to do that.
And then just lastly, any message that you have for Red Sox Nation, who's really excited to see you continue to develop?
I'm every bit as excited. Let's get this thing going.
I love it, man. Really appreciate you taking the time today, Niko. Something that I'm really hoping for, not only for the Red Sox, but so you're able to meet him, is that the Red Sox sign back Kyle Schwarber after this lockout ends. So, you can not only pick his brain, but you can meet somebody that you looked up to as well.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. Awesome. Really appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Red Sox draft pick Niko Kavadas. A huge thank you once again for Niko for taking time out of his day and being able to chat with us. We hope you enjoyed it just as much as we did. And now that we have wrapped up Monday's episode, be sure to check back Wednesday to make Locked On Red Sox your first listen again as we welcome Red Sox prospect Cole Cadam to the show. He discusses his journey through baseball just like Niko did, and some stories with the Red Sox draft picks like Tristan Casas. You will not want to miss this. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Lauren, 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. Follow Jake at Jake Iggy and the Locked On Red Sox Twitter at LO_Red Sox. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Locked On Red Sox right here on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And do not forget to check out all the other amazing episodes across the Locked On network. Locked On Yankees, Locked On A's, Locked On Astros. Everyone's doing an incredible job through this lockout that seems to be never ending. But no less, we are bringing you content every single week. And now that you've made Locked On Red Sox your first listen today, head on over to Locked On Bets to make it your second listen. Locked On Bets is your one-stop shop for all of your betting needs. It's hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis from Lee Sterling. Have a great day. We'll see you Wednesday.